Have you ever felt that strange gap between the responsibility you've been given and the actual influence you have? Many of us get handed the title of leader, but that ability to truly inspire people doesn't just show up with the job description. Real leadership, the kind that makes people want to commit, well, that's an art. So in this explainer, we're going to open up the playbook on how to master it.
Maybe this sounds familiar. You've got the title, but your team just seems a bit switched off. Your best ideas don't seem to be landing, and getting everyone motivated feels like a constant uphill battle. It's a really common frustration, but it's often a sign that we're getting two very different concepts mixed up. And this is the absolute core of it all. On one side, you have authority. That's your position on the org chart, your title, it's given to you. But on the other side, you've got influence. And that's all about your impact on others. It has to be earned. You see, authority can make people comply, but let's be honest, compliance is fragile. Influence is what makes them commit, innovate, and genuinely want to be part of the journey. And here's the really powerful truth that changes everything. We love to talk about born leaders, don't we? But influence isn't some magical trait they have. The brilliant news is that influence is a skill. And just like any other skill, it can be learned, it can be practiced, and it can be mastered by anyone. So let's treat this as our playbook, shall we? We're going to break down the 4 core pillars that can help transform a manager into a truly influential leader, all based on the principles of effective, modern leadership. Okay, our first pillar is built on a really crucial balancing act, leading with both confidence and empathy. This isn't about picking one or the other. It's about fusing them together into one incredibly powerful leadership style. We call this empathetic confidence. It's the ability to be that steady hand, projecting calm and decisiveness, while also having an understanding ear. It means you can see the big picture, but you also understand the reality of what your team is dealing with day in and day out. This idea of respect is just captured so perfectly in this quote. It gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? Your team members are smart, capable people. Your role isn't to command them like dogs, but to actually cultivate their self-respect and their sense of ownership. Real influence comes from treating people like partners in a shared mission. So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, an empathetically confident leader leads by example. They are the living proof of the standards they expect. They take full responsibility when things go south, shielding their team from unfair blame. They're brave enough to take smart risks for the sake of growth. And maybe most importantly, they actively work to build up the self-respect and confidence of every single person they lead. And that whole idea of understanding your team's perspective leads us perfectly into our second pillar, mastering emotional connection. This is really the practical side of emotional intelligence. It's how you turn that understanding into meaningful, everyday action. We can break this down into 4 really clear steps. First step, always listen. And I mean really listen, not just to the words, but to what's going on underneath. Second, try to understand what actually motivates each person. They're all different. Third, adapt your communication and your leadership style to what they need from you. And finally, practice responding thoughtfully instead of reacting emotionally. This is a huge one, especially when the pressure's on. Because you've got to remember all your emails, your speeches, your meetings. Yeah, they matter, but they are not your main communication tool. Your single greatest communication tool, day in and day out, is your behavior. The consistency between what you say and what you do, that's what builds a deep, lasting connection. This brings us straight to our third pillar, the architecture of trust. Because trust isn't something that just sort of appears. It's something you have to consciously and carefully build brick by brick. So what are the cornerstones of this architecture? Well, there's transparency, being open and honest even when the news is tough. There's consistency, so your team knows who they're getting every day. Reliability, which is just following through on what you say you'll do. And holding it all together is the foundation, integrity. But here's the crucial bit, and it's a bit of a fascinating paradox. One of the absolute best ways to build trust is to give it away first. When you grant your team real ownership, give them the autonomy to figure things out, and make sure they get all the credit, you're making a massive statement. You're saying, I trust you. And that fosters not just motivation, but that deep psychological safety that lets a team do its best work. And that solid foundation of trust is what allows us to build our final pillar, uniting the team with a powerful, compelling vision. This is what turns a job from just a series of tasks into a meaningful mission. A brilliant way to think about this is the golden circle. Now, most people and companies work from the outside in. They know what they do, and they know how they do it. But the most inspiring leaders, they flip that model on its head. They start with why. Why does this work even matter? What's our purpose? When you communicate from that core belief, you connect with people on a completely different level. You inspire commitment, not just performance. A compelling why is like a summit on the horizon. It gives everyone on the team a shared destination to aim for. It doesn't really matter if they're all taking slightly different paths to get there, they're all striving for the same peak. And that shared goal is what creates incredible alignment and momentum. And when a leader is genuinely, authentically excited about that vision, that passion becomes contagious. It's an energy that just spreads through the team, and it turns work from an obligation into a cause. This is the ultimate goal of influence, not just to direct people, but to truly inspire them. So, as we've walked through these 4 pillars, it becomes pretty clear that the question starts to shift. It's not so much what makes a leader anymore. It becomes a much more personal one. What kind of leader will I choose to be? This is all about your legacy, the impact you decide to leave on the people you guide. Let's just run through that playbook one last time. First, lead with that powerful mix of empathetic confidence. Second, master that emotional connection by listening and just being consistent. Third, consciously build the architecture of trust by empowering your team. And finally, bring everyone together with a compelling vision that starts with why. This final quote, though, offers what might be the biggest shift in thinking of all. It suggests we should stop trying so hard to be a leader, as if it's some role we have to act out. Instead, the focus should be on finding a vision you are so incredibly passionate about that you're willing to go all in. That authentic passion is what naturally makes people want to follow. So, I'll leave you with this question. Just forget about titles or positions for a moment. Instead, ask yourself, what is the vision you truly believe in? The one you are willing to build, to champion, and to stake everything on. Because that, right there, is where your true influence begins.